which has over 4,000 members. And she also works at the City of Richmond, the library there, and is also the designer of the flyer that we had for this meeting. So welcome, Stacie Plummer.
Hello. Is it on? Thank you. The story is similar to Dr. Kerr's. I'm a whistleblower. I've also faced retaliation. And there was bullying before that. I could almost say bullying to the point where I had to whistleblow. So I'm going to give you some context of the organization that I work in. I'll just call her my bully for now, but you'll hear later she's bullied for a whole lot more people than me. So let me tell you my telltale signs that I knew something was wrong when I started in the organization for the second time, about 8 years ago. I was in a department where my department director had granted me a short leave of absence for about 4 weeks to tend to the care of my 3-year-old son. It was an emergency situation. When the paperwork got to the assistant city manager, human resources director, personnel board secretary, she's all of those. She's almighty. She commented out loud to her office staff, she should just quit instead of going on leave. I thought that was inappropriate for the assistant city manager, human resources director to say, but I let it go and my director approved the leave. And a year later, I interviewed with another director for another position. During that interview, my potential new director brought up that there's a possibility that I might have an attendance problem because she heard a year prior that I had taken a leave of absence. Well, I explained the issue and the emergency situation, and I got the job. And later, when my director found that I really wasn't anything like she had heard, she confided in me and she explained that the story she heard in the beginning about me was completely different from what she actually knew me to be now that I'd worked with her. Let me give you another instance of context. One day I walked into the Human Resources Department one afternoon, and the staff was telling the Human Resources Director, Assistant City Manager, who was in her office and loves to yell from inside her office and doesn't know who's in the hallway or who's in the building when she does it, that an employee was going to be a little later than he had originally planned. So she yells out, "He can suck my," you can fill in the rest. I shook. That would be the kind of thing that I would expect to report to the Human Resources Department Assistant City Manager, not something I would hear from her. Since she couldn't see me because she was inside of her office, and nobody else, not one other employee batted an eye. When they heard that, I was going, "You guys, it's," and they were like, "She does that all the time." I'm like, I have to go. I can't let her know that I heard this. I don't know what to do. So I'm going to bring all of that into context now. I was the assistant city manager's budget analyst, and so I was responsible for ensuring that her car allowance was budgeted annually as part of her executive management benefits. When she complained to the Public Works Department, who was also a department of mine that I was the budget analyst for, that she wanted the city logo removed from her city car because she didn't want to drive around with the city logo on her city car, I'm going, well, that's double compensation because I know she gets a car allowance. I make sure it's programmed in every year. How could she be doing both? The policy says you get one in lieu of the other. At the time, I knew that was unethical. Today, I know that's illegal. But who do you tell when you're the Almighty? The assistant city manager has been making jewelry and selling jewelry under a private business named Little Luxuries for years. The business product lines have grown to include baby shower gifts that employees make on city time and city buildings at their city desks. City staff have been forced to assist her on and off city time whenever she determines the need arises. She uses the city buildings, stores things in the city buildings. I've seen them in their cubicles making these things. They've actually showed me how. I was propositioned to design her Little Luxuries marketing materials on city time using city resources. But I actually declined. Because I declined, and she is the Almighty, she has absolute power to destroy an employee's job. The bullying has resulted in my performance and dedication to my job being bad-mouthed erroneously, because every director that repeats what she says goes, "And you're nothing like what she says you are. I see you every day." I've been denied 4 director-recommended promotions. I've been forced to accept 4 lateral title changes, resulting in additional duties and responsibilities with no compensation, no additional compensation. I've been transferred to departments, 4 different departments, 4 different times. I've been split and shared amongst departments, reporting to 3 different department heads simultaneously, all of them giving me the same conflict of interest, everybody wanting the same thing the same day, and no one talking to the other one about, I'm one person amongst 3 departments. Needless to say, I know I was doing more than one person's job. She wanted me to quit. I decided I wasn't quitting. As these peculiar things would occur time and time again over the last 4 years, department heads, city employees, managers started to ask, "What did you do to her?" For the life of me, I didn't know. I was like, she can't be mad because I said no 4 years ago to that marketing stuff, right? Yes. I'm certainly not her only target. Her reputation is well known. She's brazen. But when it's happening to you, and happening for so long, you feel completely demoralized. It's such a feeling of helplessness. I guess even more so when it's being undertaken by someone that has such an absolute and destructive power and influence over staff in the organization, the city manager, the city attorney, the department directors, the managers, the staff, the police department. There's no one to tell, and there is nowhere to turn. She uses the police department as her own personal investigative unit. When she wants to intimidate you, she sends a police officer to criminally investigate you. Many of my Local 20 members have had this happen to them. Nothing happened, but it was just an intimidation tactic. Even my union rep seems to bow down. Now we'll fast forward to last year, current day. Under my new current director, who incidentally was forced from her last job by her city manager for showing a lack of leadership. So this is who I work for now. I actually asked her once, and she shared with me how she was forced out of her job when I said, "Have you ever been bullied? Do you know what this feels like? Do you see what's happening to me? Can't you help me?" That's when she explained the story about her being fired, but it turned into a layoff. She was the only one in the city laid off. So I knew I had no help. Wrongdoing started to happen in my department under that director. Well, maybe a little while before she got there. Falsification of federal stimulus grant reports, falsifying state grant reports, city contract abuse, personal use of the city credit card, theft of city property, breaches in internal controls, and other malfeasance. I went all over the city trying to get corrective action taken. I went to the city attorney's office. I even went to the human resources department. I went to the finance department. All of them said that my director had to initiate corrective action. They couldn't do anything until she did that. Well, this is the one that lacks leadership. So, as the finance manager of the department, I had to ask my director again, please take corrective action and have these things stop. So what she decided to do was go to the assistant city manager, human resources director, the almighty, and came back and reported to me what the almighty said. Not only is the almighty not going to take corrective action, she's also going to blame me for the wrongdoing because it's happening under my watch as the finance manager of the department. Well, now that was the last straw. I couldn't take any more. All those years, I had been ducking, make sure I didn't meet with her, try not to see her, because something would happen every time she saw me. I'd get transferred, I'd get demoted, I'd be bad-mouthed. So it came to a point where I didn't go to the human resources department, tried not to go to City Hall anymore. And now I'm going to be blamed for the malfeasance of others. That's too much. So I had enough. It was clear I was being set up to be fired. My career and reputation were going to be ruined by blaming me for the financial malfeasance of others. And all the assistant city manager's previous attempts to make me quit had failed. So what was I to do? I did talk to my husband and family. I had to do that. And then I proceeded to act like what I had become, a dead man walking, with something to fix before my last day. So now I understood that I was going to be forced to leave, but I decided I would leave with my head held high. The city of Richmond is my city as far as I'm concerned. It's much more than a job there for me. So I started. I reported the wrongdoing in 213 pages to the city manager, and I knew he would do nothing. From there, I filed harassment complaints. I also directed the city attorney's office to conduct a complete audit of the financial internal controls of my department. I researched, talked to lawyers, and learned about the state and federal Whistleblowers Protection Acts. And I proceeded to report the unaddressed public corruption to the Federal Office of the Inspector General, the FBI's Public Corruption Unit, the Internal Revenue Service, the Franchise Tax Board, the State Attorney General's Office, the State Labor Commissioner, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, CalPERS, the County District Attorney's Public Corruption Unit, and the County Grand Jury. Investigations are still ongoing. I've been interviewed by the Federal Office of the Inspector General, the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, and I stay in communication frequently with the County DA and the FBI's Federal Public Corruption Unit. CalPERS and the Contra Costa Grand Jury are currently investigating the city of Richmond due to my complaints. Stories regarding all of this, because it became public, going public is important. So the stories have been in the Bay Citizen, California Watch, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Contra Costa Times, the Oakland Tribune, the San Jose Mercury News, Richmond Confidential. It's been on KGO Radio, KPFA Radio. I did a Cron 4 News story, and there was a clip on Channel 2 News. Needless to say, work's been very different for me now. I can't say better, I can't really say worse, just different since I spoke out. Many people who have engaged in bullying in the past have stopped speaking to me altogether. And they never find an instance to meet with me, which is actually good, really. I have found that I've been watched on security cameras in City Hall. I've had my conversations documented and recorded. I've had coworkers turn against me in fear. But I've also had a tremendous show of support from employees, my family, friends, and the community. My union is divided, to a certain degree, because some know firsthand of what the bullying feels like, and they show support. And then we have those others that have been carrying out the bullying on behalf of the powerful, and now they have to face their lost souls. In spite of the outcome, I know I did the right thing. In spite of the outcome, I'd do it all over again.